The glamorous, the glitzy, and the avant-garde crowded the Art Guys London gallery showing. The Art Guys were a trio of art brokers who had gained celebrity fame for their elite clientele and their obsession with art, and they even boasted a short-run television series currently filming its third season. Not to mention, they were handsome, charming, and oh so sexy. While her best friend Maeve, receptionist for the Art Guys, chatted up a client, Lucy Ellis scanned the room. Modern art appealed to her, but her eyes landed on something more enticing. Tall, the man's shoulders appeared wide enough to sling a woman over. A long, lean posture, thick, bed-tousled chestnut hair. I care about how I look, but I don't have to make an effort with it. And a gorgeous tan. Couldn't spend much time in drizzly London. A traveler, perhaps, who liked abstract art. Teasing her tongue along her upper lip, Lucy imagined he would kiss like a dream when he suddenly turned and looked right at her. Eyes brightening, his smile teased with a sexy curl higher on one side. Mouth dropping open, Lucy's heart thumped, and when he winked, her insides sparkled. Was that smile meant for her? No, couldn't be. Maeve, back from schmoozing, leaned in. See something you like? Lucy abruptly turned away from the sudden, life-encompassing fantasy of kisses, sex, marriage, babies, and after so many fulfilling years geriatric handholds, something she liked maybe. Ooh, that's Connor Gavin, host for tonight's exhibit. Good man. Has oodles of cash. Lucy decided good and oodles of cash went well together. Go talk to him, Maeve encouraged her. You came here tonight because we agreed you needed to take some time for yourself. So indulge. I can't. It had been a minute since she'd dated. As a beauty influencer, life was all about the clicks, likes, and follows. Always recording makeup tutorials, editing, posting, seeking the one reel that would go viral and increase her sponsorship. She had no time for romance. Just the other night, Lucy, we both confessed that we want to fall in love. Has single Maeve sing-songed. Lucy wondered if she could do it dive in for romance. Dare to make herself vulnerable beyond the screen. Touch real love. Yes, she did desire love. Who didn't? Go. Maeve nudged her. A wanting flutter in Lucy's chest urged her cautiously forward. Connor had gone in search of the beautiful woman with the updo who reminded him of a movie star. The sight of her across the room had wrecked his plans to ditch out early, but she no longer stood before the canvas that had sold for 2 million quid. He navigated around a large intrusive plant and walked right into her. Oh! A burst of surprise animated her face. Connor caught her by the upper arms to prevent a full-on collision. Warm and soft, she smelled like something delicious that he wanted to taste. I was looking for you. Get it together, man. Same. She studied his grasp. Sorry. He let go of her and instantly regretted the lost connection. It wasn't often he got to be near a woman without dodging paparazzi flashes. Tonight's soiree had been invitation only, no media allowed. Connor Gavin. She shook his hand. Their reconnection revved through his veins. Art lover, entrepreneur, and his heart intruded smitten. Her mouth opened in an enticing O. Color rose in her cheeks. Lucy Ellis, influencer, art explorer, and her eyes brightened with a secret he wanted to discover. Interested. Mid-flirt. Lucy fell so deeply into Connor's eyes that she had to turn to face the painting hanging on the wall to collect herself. It would look strange if she dashed away now. Shed decided to go without a full face of makeup this evening, and so was feeling more vulnerable than usual. Just blush, a dash of eyeliner, and a red lip. Her Lucky Duckshire followers had dubbed it her naked look. Connor radiated an easy sensuality. He smelled like leather and vanilla beans. Alluring, sexy, and what woman could resist such a man? Yet as much as she craved romance, she knew she had little time for it. I like this one, she said of the painting before her, changing the subject abruptly. It's serene yet challenging. You said serene because of the clouds. What about that wicked black door? That's the challenge. And what a challenge resisting someone so tall, tanned, and handsome. So, his pause mimicked her nervous energy. You mentioned you're an influencer. Yes, makeup tutorials. Women need to be taught how to apply makeup. Everyone enjoys a little inspiration when it comes to enhancing their appearance. But you're not wearing. His eyes danced over her face. I'll dance with you. You're beautiful. Her mouth dropped open at his breathy statement. Take me now might sound needy. No, Lucy. No time for romance, remember. Better move back to safer ground. So what do you think this painting is trying to tell us? It's supposed to represent stepping out of one's comfort zone. She cast a look up the side of the man's face. A trimmed beard enhanced his steely jawline and teased her gaze toward his ocean eyes. Drown me. Clutching her phone to her chest, Lucy tried to slow her racing heartbeat. What's your comfort zone? Small get-togethers, emails instead of phone calls, lazy mornings in, he chuckled softly. What's your comfort zone? Oh, to know what he'd been about to say. In bed with a woman, yes, please. Having a phone in hand, it's an influencer necessity, she replied. And London. I've never been out of England, though I was invited to do a work thing in Paris last month. You didn't go. If only the invite had not covered travel or accommodation expenses. Unfortunately, travel is not in my budget. Lucy felt a magnetic attraction to him, but she resisted out of a lack of courage. She was used to getting attention online, but she was out of touch with real world connections, a connection that felt so needed. As for her lack of courage, well, she had told him she was interested. It had been a bold move, and it was the truth. Connor leaned in closer and said conspiratorially, I've an idea that'll challenge both our comfort zones. Like making out with a stranger at a public event, chill Lucy. Sounds promising. Will you have dinner with me, Lucy? There is a place on the Rue de Rivoli that serves melt in your mouth filet mignon that'll make you question your very existence. The Rue de Rivoli, but that's in Everyone Deserves to See Paris. The dare in Connor's eyes beamed bright. Could she really skip off to Paris with a man she'd just met? It would be a dream to visit the city with the sexiest man alive. And Maeve had already vetted him. Oodles of cash. But to take a drastic step outside her comfort zone, her work kept her from the risk of a broken heart. Lucy knew that her relationships tended to go sour after a few dates because she strived for an independence that always seemed to tangle with her desire for passion. But he hadn't said anything about a relationship. It was just dinner after all. And if she wanted to step up her game and win the bigger sponsorships by going viral, Lucy knew she had to do something radical, something daring. But this wasn't about work. It was about life and the romance she craved almost as much as she feared it. She slid her hand into his. Let's do Paris. Half an hour later, Connor sensed Lucy's trepidation as she took his hand and climbed into his private helicopter. Could she be nervous as he was? He'd never asked a woman he'd known for less than 10 minutes to fly to the city of love with him. Comfort zone obliterated. He countered that by chatting about the ocean mining operation Gavin Industries invested in as the pilot flew them over the English Channel. Lucy had an Audrey Hepburn thing going, which was what had hooked his interest in the gallery. Petite put together with coffee-colored hair pulled into an updo, and those sensual red lips. Later in the restaurant, they shared light conversation, and she took photos of everything, including the food. But thankfully not of him. Lucy wasn't like Connor's past girlfriends who had been glamorous, privileged, and entitled. While she was flirtatious, she seemed to check herself at times, and she clung to her phone as if it were a security shield. He'd give her that. He was a stranger. Most people didn't know he was the world's richest man because his PR manager was worth his weight in gold, make that rhodium. Very few photos of Connor were released. This is crazy. Lucy cast her gaze about the room. Do you often whisk women across the pond for dinner? First time I've done such a thing. Honestly, he said to her, doubtful brow lift, and loving every minute of it. How about you? First time in Paris. First time eating filet mignon. First time. She lowered her head and her lashes dusted her cheeks. I've ever felt so excited about the unknown. He felt the same, and he didn't want it to end. Yet it was nearing midnight, and he'd noticed her yawn after a sip of wine. Do you want to do the sights tomorrow? Oh! She set down her fork, clutched her phone. Red alert. Slow down, Connor. She must think you expect to sleep with her. That was not his intention. He barely knew the woman. I'd like to show you my favorite spots in Paris, he offered. Get to know you. I own the hotel across the street. The penthouse suite is yours if you want it. We can reconnect in the morning. She still looked unsure. How to calm her worries. You're the first woman I've gone out with on a real date. What I mean is one that hasn't been set up or which was a mutual alliance sort of thing between companies. Seriously, that's kind of sad. I mean, you're not sad. You seem so kind, and we have a love of weird art in common, and I noticed your tattoo. He slid up his sleeve to reveal the image of Audrey Hepburn, in honor of my gran. She was a big fan, and the only person who had ever loved him for being just plain Connor. Even his parents had their expectations. Meet the Gavin Industries ROI goal this month, son. Always dad. That's sweet, she seemed to digest the moment. Nervous that she might refuse him, he balanced in the silence between them. One wrong move could be the difference between him having a nice evening with a beautiful woman or getting to dive deeper into the challenge and allowing himself to get to know her. Finally, she nodded. It would be a pity to come all this way and not see the Eiffel Tower. Clasping her hand, he kissed the back of it. He wasn't sure if her shiver was from the chill in the room or a visceral reaction to their touch, but he felt the same, slightly off-center, and captivated. Had he actually said he was smitten when introducing himself? Yes, he had, and it hadn't been a lie. Lucy woke in the penthouse suite nestled in a dreamy bed. Had she really flown to Paris to dine with a stranger? It was either daring or so stupid. Connor's wink had been effective bait. This experience was going to make for high click content. Her engagement ratings would soar. A knock at her door was followed by staff announcing themselves. Tucking the bedsheet up around her chest, she called them in. Sorry to bother you, mademoiselle. The liveried attendant pulled in a clothes rack. Monsieur Gavin sent a few items for you to choose from. And breakfast. Another tray was wheeled in and left at the end of the bed. Bonne journée, mademoiselle. Crawling across the bed, Lucy breathed in the delicious scent of the pastries and sipped the fresh juice. She danced her fingers over the clothing, an assortment of dresses, slacks, tops, and shoes. What a dream! A mega-rich hottie had whisked her away to spoil her. Never had she felt so adventurous, so, well, she thrived on the approval of other people. Likes, follows, heart emojis. This felt different, more intimate. Like someone was interested in the real Lucy Ellis, not her Queen of the Lucky Ducks persona. It was a little difficult to take in, actually. What had she gotten into? Sitting cross-legged, she dived into breakfast while scrolling for info about Connor. Very few images of him existed online, 3 to be exact, which was weird. Wikipedia touted him as a trillionaire. How was that even possible? Apparently, his family owned a bit of everything across the world with a focus on robotics, oil cybercurrency, and ocean mining. Because of their wealth, his parents had kept Connor secluded from public as a child. When he'd hit the social scene in his 20s, he had initially been caught in compromising positions and then had disappeared for years. Now the trillionaire was known for his generosity yet uncompromising commitment to privacy. She checked her stats, lots of hits. Her recent eyeshadow sponsorship deal had rent covered for a few more months. She snapped a shot of the clothes rack before the terrace window that looked out to the Eiffel Tower and posted it with the caption, "When in Paris." Now, if her followers knew she was being hosted by the world's richest man, all she needed was a shot of the two of them enjoying themselves. If she could get one of them looking romantically involved, the sponsors and opportunities would roll in. Brands couldn't resist a romance. And it was romance that her oft-ignored heart longed for. All work and no play had made Lucy a desperately wanting woman. But how long could this last, really? She didn't even know Connor. And her dating history was meh. She'd never been able to fully invest in a relationship because growing up she'd been forced to fend for herself while her parents had worked long hours. She was a thoroughly independent woman, which made it difficult to put her trust in another person. Her phone pinged with a message. "Can you be ready in an hour?" Connor wanted to do touristy stuff like the Louvre, Sacré-Cœur, the Jardin des Plantes, and if she dared, the catacombs. Ancient cathedrals and spooky skulls, perfect content for her socials. Lucy texted an enthusiastic yes and the beaming smile emoji. Time to work this fantasy for every possible social media hit, because it couldn't last forever. Soon enough, she'd have to return to London and real life. Experiencing Paris with Lucy was better than viewing it from a conference room while a PowerPoint on deep-sea polymetallic nodule extraction played in the background. Had he ever noticed the stone mascaron scarved grotesque faces on the older buildings? Or that when you stood in Notre Dame's Parvis, it was Les Pointe Zéro for measuring all distance in France. Lucy had snapped a shot of her feet standing on the embedded marker disc. She even enjoyed the catacombs. Whoever thought a tour of skulls would be a moneymaker, Lucy said, as they wandered the morbid labyrinth in the chilly depths beneath the city, was a genius. Right? I should look into investing in this. According to the internet, you and your family already own the world. Those ridiculous articles always focusing on dollar signs and never the people behind the fortune. There was a reason his parents had secluded him from the public eye when he was young. Connor had learned how to protect his privacy, but at the price of never making real connections with people. But he'd reached a place in his life where he wanted more. A life beyond dodging paparazzi, beyond merely being satisfied with his friends fixing him up on dates with women who never seemed to understand his need for calm for a normal life, for something meaningful. And then Lucy had appeared. "We don't quite own the world," he offered. "Close, but don't hold that against me. A measure of my wallet will tell you nothing about the man. I like Connor Gavin. He's very charming, handsome, and he knows exactly when to hold my hand." He squeezed her fingers. "I've led a charmed life, but I've never been good at relating to people. If you have money, people tend to see that before anything else. I've been taught to avoid trusting others." Same. Growing up, I always had to take care of myself. Trust comes not so easily to me. But you and I know. He gave her a confirming glance because what she hadn't said was that trust between them already seemed possible. There's something easy between us. It's nice. Agreed. But didn't you have family you could trust? Of course, but my parents worked long hours. I was a latchkey kid, learned to make my own meals, take care of myself. I think it translates to my freelance influencer lifestyle. I do alone very well. Connor sighed. She echoed his heart but not his desires. Yeah, alone. It's not all it's cracked up to be. She turned her phony a constant, prop toward him. Connor put up his palm. Please no photos, Lucy. I value my privacy. Oh. She tucked the phone behind her back. I can do that. Or not do that. You must have to guard your privacy carefully, and my life is all about the photo op. A sad moo softened her face in the dim light. We're quite opposite in that way, but similar in most others. We both aspire to not be alone, or at least he hoped. When Lucy turned a corner to stacks of ancient skulls leering at her, she plunged against him, gripping his shoulders in fear. Her heartbeat rapped against his. When she smiled at him, realizing that her reaction was silly, she relaxed in his arms. I got you, he said. Could he hold her forever? The gift of her closeness was irresistible to him. He didn't feel as though he had to be anything other than himself around her. Not the hard-nosed CEO or even a dashing man about town that media and others expected of him. It's just the two of us. No walking dead. As they stood before a heart made out of skulls, he dared to touch the corner of her mouth. So soft, exquisitely silken, her lips parted as she averted her eyes shyly from his. Connor bowed closer. Lucy tilted her head. Their lips were almost touching when a group of giggling teenagers rounded the corner and they sprang apart. Sorry. Connor straightened and nodded to the teen girls who snapped shots of one another before the skulls. His feelings echoed Lucy's look of disappointment. With a sigh, she hooked her arm through his as he led her away from the nuisance that had just destroyed their moment. Then again, perhaps kissing amid skulls and bones wasn't the most romantic. You know where I'd really like to kiss you, he asked. The Eiffel Tower. I'd follow you anywhere. Lucy begged Connor to have the driver drop them near the river so they could take in the sights as they made their way to the Eiffel Tower. She realized he was averse to being in the public eye, which was why he wore sunglasses. But he had invited her to see the most crowded tourist attraction in the city. They strolled along the river hand in hand. Lucy felt as though she was walking 2 inches above the ground. Part of that was seeing the buildings and landmarks she only knew from photos and books. But the bigger part, Connor's hand in hers. It was like mainlining all those mushy romance novels Maeve was always trying to get her to read. Were she and Connor the only two people in the world felt like it? And when she pressed up against him and tilted her head onto his shoulder, the look he gave her supercharged the flutters in her core. She was feeling all the feels right now, and she intended to enjoy every minute of it because one distracting thought kept reminding her that this was just fantasy, a brief affair with a stranger that would end soon enough. You want to stop in that map shop? Connor asked. It's my favorite kind of art. Of course, I love seeing the city from your perspective. Browsing the walls of the tiny shop filled from ceiling to floor with antique maps, Lucy couldn't take her gaze off the handsome Trillionaire discussing the authenticity of a map with the shop owner in French, which he seemed to speak fluently. He stretched his arm high along the map's gilded frame, which pulled his shirt tight across his back. Wow. Those muscles rippled. Thoughts of gliding her palms over his bare skin were so inappropriate, yet, with a secret smile, she turned to randomly sort through a file of smaller maps while taking the fantasy further to slipping off her dress. Find something you like. She spun to find the man of her dreams waiting expectantly. Something she liked, yes, and it wasn't a flat map smelling of dusty old cupboards, but rather chiseled muscles perfumed with vanilla and leather. Lucy. No, I'm good. Did you get something? Yes, they're shipping it to my London home. On to the Eiffel Tower. He proffered his arm for her to take, her fingers wrapped across solid muscle. Yes, a nice tall iron hard erector, yes. The Iron Lady, let's go. Despite the crowd of tourists, it felt as though they stood alone at the top of the world. Paris is so romantic. Lucy sighed and leaned on the railing at the top of the Eiffel Tower. That almost kiss in the catacombs had shaken her to her spinning melty core, and his muscled back had stirred her fantasies while in the map shop. Was she ready to take this fantasy a step further? With Connor's arm around her waist, she couldn't deny that she wanted to. Shed told Maeve she hadn't the time for romance. Apparently, time had other plans for her. Meeting her gaze, Connor brushed the backs of his fingers along her cheek. Let the world stare. She stood in the falling zone, falling for a man she barely knew, falling for the storybook idea of love at first sight, simply falling. I need a selfie to remember this moment. She pulled out her phone and Connor's grimace reminded her that he wasn't keen on photos of himself. Just of me, she said, but wishing it could be both of them. My ducks love following my adventures. She took a shot. Your ducks. I call my followers Lucky Ducks because I usually start each reel with Hey Ducks. It's my brand. They love it. Connor whispered into her ear, Can I be your lucky duck? No, she didn't want to put him in the same collection as her faceless followers. He stood in a class of his own, a man she honestly did trust. That they had shared that moment of realization in the catacombs meant so much to her. You think about it, he said to her silence. I feel compelled to once again try to kiss you. Lucy nodded, a little dumbstruck, a lot panicked, but overall wanting him more than anything she'd ever desired. Tenderly, Connor's lips met her mouth, taking in the overwhelming everything of him, his strength, his sexy ocean eyes, his vanilla leather scent, the heat of his skin. She stopped thinking, stopped taking in the chatter of tourists around them, and surrendered to the moment. A first kiss should be exciting, a little careful, promising, and ultimately so hot it could burn a hole through a woman's wanting heart. This kiss was all that and more. Connor tasted like the thick, rich chocolate they'd sipped at a cafe along the way, and of something tantalizing and enchanting. Passion. Their tentative connection quickly moved to desire. She clutched his shirt, wanting to put herself inside his vitality, the tingling joy of being close to a man, mapping his body with hers. Connor swept a hand across her back and hugged her body against his. Closer, she thought. I need to map the path to your heart, because that would focus her on the moment and not the reality that this was only a foray, not her real life. Yes, she wanted romance, but how could that possibly happen in a single day? He explored her with a kiss that was part gentlemanly, part adventurer, and all masculine power. When she felt her knees grow wobbly and thought surely her heartbeat could win a marathon, Lucy gently, regrettably parted from the kiss. There was no one to snap a shot of this incredible moment, but her heart recorded it all. Connor bowed his forehead to hers. She sighed with delight. Best kiss ever. He took her hand and steered her toward the elevators. Let's go back to the hotel. The room Lucy was staying in had been a favorite of his grandmother's, Connor explained as they arrived for a late meal in the ultra-luxe space. While he poured them drinks, Lucy wandered onto the terrace that faced the Eiffel Tower across the Seine. The twinkling azure skyline sparkled like a movie set. Lucy's thoughts strayed to inviting him to stay, or would he expect to spend the night with her after that breathtaking kiss? This date, which had been extended another day, was happening so fluidly. She was enjoying herself, but the dream of actual romance felt unattainable. Love felt like a locked door to which she had lost the key. It wasn't what Lucy Ellis had known or was even comfortable with. It felt much easier to push it away than to find that key and see if it really could open her heart. But really, she was jumping too far ahead. Why was she thinking about love? Why not simply enjoy the moment? She snapped some shots of the skyline. Her lucky ducks approved of the scenery post, but wanted to know if she was alone or with someone special. Connor was growing more special with every wink, every smile, and that kiss. He handed her a glass of wine. I used to stay here with my gran when I was little. I would splay out and read over in that corner by the magnolia tree. What stories did you read? Harry Potter, A Wrinkle in Time, usually a coding manual or a book on natural history. Of course, the man had a massive brain, but also eyes that could render her a quiver of gushing mush. I read mysteries. Though my flatmate is always trying to get me to read romance, she's always striving for the great romance in her own life. Aren't you? Was she apparently so? Maybe. Are you? She searched his face for the answer she wanted from him. His jaw muscle twitched. Connor reached for a remote on a nearby table and soft music surrounded their moonlit terrace. Do you want to dance? He had deftly avoided the romance question, expecting too much Lucy. Love to? They swayed and she rested her head on his shoulder. Heaven and moonbeams, giggly laughter, and all the best things in life came to mind. She reached for her phone to record the moment, but it was inside in her purse. Her followers might never have an answer to their questions. And that was sad. Or was it? In the few years she'd been influencing, she hadn't kept her life private. Sharing with others was what she did. It was how she related to the world. And in turn, she received the attention, the love she had always desired, but through a screen from a safe distance. Now it felt awkward to not share, but she wanted to respect Connor's request that she didn't include him in any photos. Should we go inside? He asked. She glanced inside to the bed. She wanted that, but she was worried. It felt fast, almost as if she was taking advantage of something, though she couldn't place a finger as to what. I'm not asking what you think I am, he said. You're special, Lucy. I like you. And I want to move at a pace you're comfortable with. Tonight, that feels like snuggling on the sofa, sipping wine, and maybe falling asleep in each other's arms. With a soft hush of breath, she nodded. Sounds like a dream. Lucy woke and slid out of bed. Connor had slept on the sofa. Such a gentleman. Wandering toward the bathroom, she shook her head in disbelief. This could not be real, but she was in for the fantasy. After a shower and a selection from the clothing racks, sunny yellow dress, low kitten heels, she swept up her hair with long tendrils falling around her face. Minimal makeup again because she only had the eyeliner, lipstick, and rouge in her purse. She was already plotting a tutorial on how to make it work when you suddenly find yourself without access to your makeup case. Connor stood before the tea tray sans shirt. Seeing his bare muscled chest stopped Lucy in her tracks. Oh, so perfect. And she hadn't run her hands all over him last night. What was wrong with her? He set down his teacup. I was waiting for the shower. How was your sleep? Perfect, she answered. But it wasn't in reply to his question, because all that muscle pulsing with every move, forming ridges and valleys and sunburnished. She pushed the thoughts away. So that tattoo on your arm, you said it was for your gran. He turned his wrist to reveal Audrey Hepburn's face again. She really was a classic silver screen beauty. She was on Lucy's must-do list for her glam makeovers in which she made herself look like a famous person and which her followers loved. Gran loved Hepburn, Connor said. Whenever I look at this, I'm reminded of her. That's adorable. Was that a blush? Connor bowed his head shyly, a move that made her heart flutter. I've never been called adorable before. You deserve it. She kissed him on the cheek. I've had a wonderful time with you, Connor. Me too. She bit her lip. She'd be foolish to ask for more, yet her heart. Does it have to stop? She asked suddenly. Mercy. She was out of her depth, trying to project herself into something romantic with a trillionaire whom little old Lucy from Manchester could never dream to snag. I was hoping you'd say that. I'm in the mood for croissants, he said. You up for breakfast? So he didn't intend to put her on a helicopter and send her back home. Lucy exhaled. She shouldn't have asked to stay. She did have work to do after all. She really shouldn't impinge on his generosity any longer. Changing your mind about me, he asked with a seriousness that startled her. No, he was still the sexy trillionaire she was falling for and lusting over. Work could wait. I'll need to check in with my flatmate so she doesn't think I've been kidnapped, but yes, I'm in. He kissed her, a slow but ultimately too short connection. With another quick kiss, he wandered into the bathroom. While the shower pattered, Lucy called Maeve to fill her in. Go, girl. I've been following your posts. Is it the great romance you've dreamed of? Maeve squealed. It could be, but is it just Connor's thing? Lucy wondered aloud. With all women, rich men did not find their soulmates shilling makeup online to get by. Lucy Ellis can't compete with the privileged, beautiful women I'm sure he's dated. Don't overthink it, sweetie. Just enjoy yourself. Maeve was right. Love you, Maeve. Lucy hung up. Right then. Time to dive in deeper. What was the worst that could happen? Shed, gain wonderful memories, some stunning photos of the city, and could finally mark Paris off her bucket list. Or she might fall in love. They had to dash to the waiting limo because Lucy panicked when she couldn't find her phone. Connor had offered to buy her a new one, but she'd freaked out. Her whole livelihood was on that phone. Finally, phone found under a pillow, they'd set off for Angelina, one of Connor's favorite pastry shops. It had begun to disturb Connor how connected she was to that device. Her focus was always divided. It was a painful reminder of his family life, parents who expected he'd be fine on his own, checking in only regarding the financials, never really connecting. Did people not know how to connect anymore? I never imagined I'd get to visit Paris, Lucy said, as they strolled the bustling pavement lined with the high-end shops of the Champs-Élysées. The croissant and hot chocolate were beyond, and that Lamborghini store was amazing. I can't believe the owner knew you by name, but what I love most is talking to you. You must have seen it all, done it all, right? Hardly. He gave his dark sunglasses a tap. Reclusive, remember I was a party boy for a bit, but that got old fast. I imagine you've had many gorgeous girlfriends. None so pretty as you. Wait, surely he couldn't be calling her his. He interrupted her thought as he pulled her from the pavement to stand under a tree away from the crowd. Connor pushed her hair from her cheek. You're real, Lucy. I like that. I must say you're different than I expected of a trillionaire. Down to earth. Amiable, not a corporate raider always on his phone. I keep my phone tucked away. I only use it during office hours, but your office hours seem to be constant. He gestured to her phone. am trying to go viral. It would increase my income and allow me to travel. Nothing wrong with ambition, but still that divided attention. He knew how to solve that, knew how to win her whole focus. He steered her toward a jewelry shop and she cooed over all the sparkling booty. When she lingered over a diamond bracelet, Connor immediately bought it. But when he went to put it on her, she flinched. It felt like a gut punch. Lucy, she nodded and held out her wrist for him. It's so lovely. I was just admiring it. Thank you. She kissed him. Something about that thank you felt forced, and he didn't know why. We should call it a day, she offered, at least with the shopping. He owned a mansion in the 16th arrondissement set on Le Lac en Frieur. He had not taken her there last night because propriety. They arrived as the sun was setting. A crew of employees greeted Lucy, handed her lemonade, and offered slippers. Connor led her to the terrace that faced the tree-framed lake where a meal waited. She spun on the terrace before sitting down. Everything about her was free and sweetly sexy. The bracelet glinted under the chandelier hung from an iron frame, and she touched it, going quiet. Why did she seem so bothered by a simple gift? He didn't know whether to be offended, or had she never been given fine things he could spoil her. And he wanted to. But thanks to his gran, he knew that wasn't the way to a person's heart. Or at least not a person like Lucy who valued things beyond money. Did he have the skills to navigate Lucy's heart? After a 4-course meal finished with an amazing cherry gâteau, Lucy settled back and put her slippered feet up on a cushioned stool. This was how it felt to be content, noticed by a kind and gorgeous man. In his gaze always, and every time he smiled at her, it felt as though he were a little surprised himself that they were here together. What they shared was light and bright, hopeful, and their flirtations were growing bolder. The diamond bracelet slipped along her wrist. It had been so expensive. She'd never accepted such a valuable gift from a man. It had felt weird in the moment. But now, as it sparkled under the chandelier, Lucy reminded herself she was walking through a dream. And if one found themselves in a dream, they should not try to smash it open and bring it to an end. I've always believed that money can't buy happiness, she said, but it sure doesn't hurt. You're not happy right now. She stretched up her arms. I'm ecstatic. Connor leaned back in his chair, so comfortable in his skin, as he rubbed a thumb along his stubbled jaw. Strolling the city with you makes me happy. Yes, but you have to be cautious. I saw the photographers. Sorry to have whisked you out of that shop so quickly. Paparazzi are not my favorite people. It didn't bother me, she said. It had been another reminder to keep her phone tucked in her purse when not capturing the sights. But I think we've mastered the comfort zone challenge. Does that mean our date is coming to an end? Do you want it to? Never. She didn't want to wake from this dream. And maybe it was time she relinquished her need to make excuses for not allowing herself happiness and just invite whatever wanted to happen. The handsome man with the ocean eyes and impossible muscles felt genuinely interested in her. She trusted him, and she would be a fool not to indulge in all he wanted to give her. Lucy got up and sat on the edge of his chair. Leaning over him, she stroked her fingers through his hair. God, he smelled so good. She kissed him, a slow lingering taste of something she'd not realized she needed. Yet her heart reached out for all that it could grab every time they touched. If I could stop time, she whispered, I would stay here in Paris forever. With you. Good answer. But you must have work you need to do. I do have a meeting tomorrow morning, and a standing appointment back in London later. He toyed with the ends of her hair. The feeling that she was his only focus buoyed her, made her feel light and floaty and well like a lucky duck. Will you stay here tonight? I've a guest room. No invitation to spend the night together. She appreciated that because it still felt a little too soon. Lucy kissed him. You couldn't get rid of me if you tried. With a morning meeting scheduled at La Défense, Connor dressed and knocked on Lucy's bedroom door. He entered, handed her his credit card, and told her to spend a few hours wandering the city before giving her a quick kiss goodbye. It was the best way to please a woman. As he walked out of the mansion, he frowned. He looked up toward the bedroom window. Was he buying her affection? He knew that sort of thing wouldn't work on Lucy, but how else could he keep her attention? His parents had instilled that emotional necessity into his very marrow. He knew he wasn't worthy of affection unless he was spending or making money, because they'd never said I love you to him. Those words had never left his mouth either. Did he want Lucy to say she loved him? They'd only spent a few days together. Days that had shifted something inside him. made him believe that every day could be as easy and light as it was when he was spending time with her, that maybe love could be something beyond the material, but he knew from past relationships that a bought woman could never be true. The idea of losing Lucy well, he wasn't sure he could handle that emotionally. When she held his hand and beamed that beautiful smile at him, he felt so close to being seen, loved. Hopping into the limo, he headed for the meeting. With hope, Lucy wouldn't be like the rest of the women who had breezed into his life and then abandoned him when they learned he wanted to go beyond the material and into the emotional. The yellow duck purse was covered in crystals. The price tag was hefty. After breakfast, Lucy had dressed in a summery floral dress and tucked Connor's black credit card in her purse. He said she should buy anything that caught her eye. A luxury handbag store had beckoned. The duck purse was so on brand. Could a picture with this purse be the one to go viral? As she left the store, bag in hand, a tingle of excitement tickled her neck and cheeks. But by the time she returned to Connor's lake house and he'd texted that he'd be there in an hour, that tingle had segued from excitement to dread. She placed the purse on the table against a background of lush climbing vines on the lakeside terrace. Standing in front of the purse, Lucy couldn't summon the joy she'd experienced when she'd initially spied it. That adrenaline rush of having one's wants fulfilled, much like getting thousands of likes for a post, had disappeared. She hadn't needed the purse. Sure, she reasoned Connor could afford it. Yet, she'd taken money from a man as if she deserved it. Like, he was paying her for her time. She toyed with the diamond bracelet on her wrist. Plopping onto the chair before the table, she caught her chin in hand. What am I doing? She wondered aloud. Indulging in a fantasy, remember, doing exactly as he'd told her she should do. The man liked to treat her. She should accept that gifts were his way of showing affection after all. With a nod, Lucy shoved away her need to justify this purchase and took a few shots of the purse. Her followers were going to love this. After lunch, Connor helped Lucy pack the few items of clothing he'd bought for her. The duck purse was cute. On brand for sure. It was Saturday, and he had a standing appointment in London. What exactly is this appointment? Lucy kissed him on the cheek as he swept up her bags in preparation to carry them out to the limo. Hospital, he provided simply. She turned abruptly at the door, her mouth falling open. He rubbed his jaw in thought. Dare he invite her to witness such a personal part of his life, Connor? What's wrong? She muttered nervously. Are you... Oh, no, nothing like that. It's something I do for my gran. Why don't you come along with me? See what makes me really happy. It warmed Connor's heart to see Lucy chatting with the patients in the elder care ward. He'd been doing this every Saturday he was in London since his gran had passed. You've made these visits since her death, Lucy asked as they strolled the hallway, which smelled of antiseptic and was illuminated by bright fluorescent lights. Holding her hand lessened his anxiety over the cold clinical atmosphere. Yes, she died when I was 19. I'd never stop. Gran had memory loss at the end, but he tapped the tattoo on his forearm. She'd see this and say, "Oh, there's the boy who loves Audrey Hepburn." And I'd say, "That I do." But in my head, it was really her I loved. Gran could still recall scenes from Hepburn's movies. I watched all her movies so I could hold a conversation with her. Connor, that's so kind. You really loved her. I did. When she had her lucid moments, she'd tell me about the loneliness. Even though we had her at home and the best medical teams on call for 24-hour care, she wasn't able to go out by herself, and so she'd pine for time spent with good company. She made me promise to visit people in the hospital as she had done when she was able to help them feel less alone. So I've been doing it ever since. The patients really brighten when you walk in with flowers. It's such a good thing. You are an amazing man. I'm not doing it for accolades, Lucy. I know that. You give them your attention, and that means the world. It meant a lot, but not the world to Connor. Lucy had become his world, his breath, his very heartbeat. She felt so necessary now. Like life without her might never be as joyous as it was when in her company. I'm glad I got to see this side of you, she said. You're just like everyone else. Never thought I was different. But sure, he knew that others viewed him as something untouchable, a man with so much money that he could never relate to their troubles. None of it true. And Lucy had seen that. The sky had darkened by the time they stepped onto the pavement outside. Neon lights glowed and cars shot by. Standing at the curb with traffic zooming behind them, he felt they were the only two people in the world. And when she asked if she could take a selfie just for them this time, he agreed because he wanted a photo of the two of them. Turning to stand beside her, they smiled for the shot. Enthusiasm making her bounce, Lucy pointed to the sky and shouted, "Look at that gorgeous full moon over Big Ben." She aimed her phone to snap a pic. A step backward made her wobble. Connor saw the oncoming car. Lucy. Jerked out of her fascination for the moon, Lucy yelped as Connor's arm swept around her waist and tugged her from the street. She'd been so elated, so utterly in love with the day they'd spent talking, sharing, laughing, that she'd not been paying attention, had stepped off the curb. A car honked. Wheels screeched. Clinging to Connor's solid frame, she buried her face against his shoulder. Her bones shivered. Protected in his embrace, a tear slipped down her cheek. "It's okay." His voice was like a warm blanket she wanted to tug about her. She nodded, unable to find her voice. "But it wasn't okay, Lucy." "Lucy," he whispered, as if her name was an urgent prayer. His hug tightened. "You are so precious to me." Such an ache in his voice. Her tears increased as she realized he must genuinely care for her. A terrible hole opened wide in her gut. Was falling for a man really so dangerous? Once at Connor's penthouse, Lucy veered straight for the bathroom and muttered something about it having been a long day. It had been a fabulous day until he'd almost lost her. One moment of inattention could have dramatically altered the course of both their lives. He should have been more aware. But he'd been in the same goofy sort of love blindness as she had been. Thank goodness he'd been fast enough to catch her. The car had swerved and missed hitting her by a few inches. In that moment he had lived 1,000 lives, each one cruel and punishing, and so unfulfilled. He'd clung to Lucy as truly a precious treasure he never wanted to lose. He needed to hold her now, but he understood that adrenaline must be coursing through her system. She had to come down to relax, and to know she was now safe. Lucy dashed out of the bathroom, phone in hand. "I can't do this." She veered to the kitchen and found the waste bin. "This is too much trouble." Lucy. She was overreacting. And yet, no, Connor. "I really like you. I may be falling for you, but that can't happen if I'm not fully present. You want my attention?" She dropped the phone into the bin. "Now you have it. You don't have to go to such extremes, Lucy. You've had a terrible experience. And I know that's a tool you use for your work." She suddenly dropped the strap of her sundress, and then the other, which allowed her dress to fall to expose the tops of her nipples. Connor's jaw also dropped. Her mood shifted to a sultry tease, and the way her hair spilled forward, covering one tiny breast, would be his undoing. Boldly, she walked toward him. "Do I have your attention now?" Sex with Connor. Gavin chased away the dread and misgivings Lucy had been feeling. The only like she desired was the one that came from his smiling ocean eyes. His explorative, ridiculously hot kisses. His precise touch that could play her body gently and then not so gently. He knew where her erogenous zones hid, and he sought them as if on a quest. Making love to a man she felt connected to, comfortable with, excited by, felt precious. But Lucy also let out her sassy side and dragged her nails down his back as his kisses explored her neck and breasts. His confident moves made her feel a mouse under a predator's paw. Yet she'd never felt safer, more seen. Her lucky ducks were definitely not getting any details of this affair. Coming down from their second shared orgasm, the two of them lay on the bed, not wondering whether anyone could see them through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Connor's penthouse looked down over most buildings in the city. She slid a hand along his muscular thigh taut with masculine heat. Getting to see his compassionate side earlier had blown her mind. All day the two of them had been dialed completely into the other. Bliss. Until she'd made that wrong step. Being held by him was the only thing that had gotten her through that awful moment. He'd become a rock she hadn't known she'd needed. "This is all I need," she said. "I'm sure of it." "Same." He rolled to his side and snuggled his face against her breast and kissed her on her favorite spot. "I don't ever want to lose you, Lucy. You mean the world to me." "I do." She closed her eyes to settle into his lazy ministrations. Had she found romance, love? Did she want a relationship at a moment in her life when she felt so close to finally achieving success on her own? Just one viral post was all she needed, and then she could breathe easily. This latchkey kid would never be left out in the cold because she'd forgotten her key at school. Independence meant everything to her, yet all her life it had been forced upon her at the cost of a loving family life, of never knowing if she mattered to someone. And now that love seemed possible, Lucy Connor's worried gaze lingered on her face. Everything about him felt right. He would never expect her to survive on her own. Yet a tiny voice in her head cautioned her not to expect him to always be there to rescue her, and she would always be aware they were in completely different social classes. Could this only ever be an affair? She didn't like that niggling worry. But naked in bed with the sexiest man alive was no place to discuss what she hoped and dreamed for her future. She slid her fingers through his hair and cooed, "Kiss me, lover," because more talk would only increase her worries. Lucy woke in Connor's king-size bed. Down the hallway, a shower pattered. Pulling on her sundress, she wandered out to the kitchen and noticed her phone on the counter. He'd taken it out of the bin. Beside it sat the crystal duck purse. "You didn't need me," it mocked. With a heavy sigh, she sat at the counter and tapped her phone screen. That Connor had argued against her throwing it away granted him points in his favor. He was so forgiving, kind, charming, sexy. Compassionate, the visits to the hospital were about the sexiest thing to her, but as well he was a superb lover. She smiled at that word superb. Picking up the phone, she made notes for post captions, "A superb day in London." She'd not taken any photos yesterday, save for that selfie that had resulted in the near accident. Where had her head been, lost in Connor's gaze, in the thrill of falling in love? "It's not just an affair," she whispered. "I can't be a tryst." She wanted so much more. The photo showed them hugging, happy. It had been meant for just the two of them. She forwarded a copy to him, and then, if she posted this picture, her followers would flip. A photo of the world's richest man on her socials would blow up. It could be the key to going viral. "What do you think?" she asked the silent duck. "You going to do it?" Connor asked. Lucy dropped her phone. The photo wobbled, waiting to be selected. I Suddenly defensive, she countered, "Don't you trust me?" Because she had been ready to do something he had told her not to do, I would never have posted that photo. He slid onto the stool beside her and looked at the screen. "That's a great shot. We look happy." "I am happy." The duck's jeweled eyes on her felt accusatory. "So why does it feel a little wrong to enjoy that happiness?" "It's not wrong unless you make it wrong." She pushed the phone away along with the purse. "All right, maybe I did consider posting it, but I promise it was only momentary." Connor kissed her. As he glided a hand along her cheek and cupped her face, it was easy to fall into him, to lose herself. He tapped her phone. "Approval from faceless strangers is not real life. When we're together, it's the only real that matters." "Yes, but," she growled, "this stupid purse, it's mocking me. What I thought you liked it. I shouldn't have bought it." And to be honest, she had to tell him, "I've been shoving down the niggling feeling of how wrong this all is. That maybe you lured me in with jewels and fine things. Connor, it feels like you've been trying to buy me, but you can't buy my attention. I've been trying to... Lucy, I know that sounds harsh, but I need to step back." She picked up her phone, a habit. Connor pushed down her wrist. "What does it matter if I spoil you with a few gifts? At least you have my full attention when we're together. I can't seem to capture your attention when you've that thing in your hand, no matter what I may buy for you." Stunned, she gaped at him. "It's true." "Yes, but oh, did the truth sting?" "Right." She nodded and walked around him. "I can get home on my own. Lucy, we need to talk." Yes, they did, but right now she was balancing a weird line between free-falling into something she didn't believe she could have and staunchly maintaining a moral high ground that she was struggling to make sense of. "I need some distance right now, Connor. Sorry." Closing the front door behind her, Lucy shook her head. What had she done? Lucy thanked the cabbie and paid him on the app. Exhaling a breath, she took a moment before entering her building. She'd just walked away from a man who had seemed perfect. Perfect looks, perfect manners, perfect lover, perfect everything. What was wrong with her? It had been that stupid duck bag which she'd wisely left behind. It had mocked her with its silent stare. She was just as guilty of accepting Connor's money as he was of using it to keep her attention. "At least I give you my attention." He was not wrong about her divided focus. She craved the attention her platform received, and she hated that. It might be responsible for her losing the best guy ever. "You are a troublemaker." Connor turned the duck to face away from him. Hadn't she liked the purse, all the things he'd bought for her, and beyond that the time they'd spent together? She was probably right about needing distance. He'd said something terrible about not having her attention. He hated himself for that. even if it had been true. He picked up the crystal-laden purse. Her followers were the lucky ducks, but he'd been the truly lucky one, at least for a little while. But he didn't want to follow Lucy. He wanted to share the world with her, experience things side by side. It had felt like a real possibility as they'd gotten to know one another these past few days. How could he break a habit that had been ingrained in him since childhood he'd never wanted for anything? And because he'd been taught savvy business sense and wise spending when he did buy himself the multi-million-dollar estates and fancy cars, it wasn't a burden to his wallet. Yes, he lived differently than Lucy, but didn't she deserve some of the luxury he could give her? Of course he tried the same with other women. They wanted all the stuff he gave them. And that's when his heart realized he couldn't play this game and have a real intimate relationship at the same time. What Lucy wanted, what he wanted, was something that money could not buy. Lucy gave him so much. He could laugh with her, talk with her, be intimate with her. She gave as much as she received. He could never put a monetary value on what they had together. That was what he desired more than anything. He wanted love. And yet she had fled his arms. He shouldn't have accused her of lacking focus. It was her job to record things and create content. It hadn't been as constant as he'd made it out to be, and she'd abided his request for no photos of himself. He pulled out his phone to text her, but couldn't bring himself to open the app. Maybe she needed a few days to sort things out in her mind. This couldn't be the end, could it? Have I lost her? He asked the duck. 2 days after fleeing Connor's penthouse, Lucy had done nothing but think about the man who had changed her life irreversibly. Had she walked away from something promising? Did she still have the option of walking back? If he hadn't called or texted, then he'd obviously not missed her. Maeve settled onto the sofa beside Lucy. Her bestie gave her that discerning once over that meant, girl, you need to fix your lashes, or else, girl, who do I need to punch? Did I do the wrong thing? Lucy asked. I don't know him, sweetie. If he made you feel like he was buying your attention, but that's just it. I've never dated a trillionaire before. Maybe it's normal for him. Exceedingly possible. Like me living my life through social media is normal, she argued. Maeve winced. Yes, that had sounded terrible. The screen was not her life, though it did support everything that went into making a life. A life that had experienced romance if only for a moment. Give him another chance. You think, Lucy, you went on about that fabulous first kiss at the top of the Eiffel Tower. And then the sex. I didn't know you even knew how to do things like that. Nor had she. It was so easy to be with him, Maeve, but I'll never be on that man's level. Maeve stood and headed to the front door. You can be on any level you want, and why do there have to be levels? We're all the same underneath our clothes. And it sounds like he adores you. How does being with him make you feel like there's nowhere else in the world I'd rather be? Then set that phone aside and give him the attention he deserves. With a wink, Maeve left for work. Lucy picked up her phone. Her last post days ago, featuring the duck purse, had garnered tens of thousands of likes. Her followers couldn't believe she'd not bought it for herself. She could have, she told herself, but she knew it wasn't really true. She had some savings, but not enough to justify a splurge purchase like that. This had nothing to do with the purse. She'd been stuck in a moment of striving for more likes, more approvals, more, and more, when all along that more possessed ocean eyes and a charming smile. Maeve was right. Lucy loved being an influencer, but she'd gotten to the point where her job was directing her down a path on which she'd be wise not to stumble. Opening the message app, she was about to text Connor when she saw that he had texted her moments ago. Found a new mate. 3 photos were attached, which Lucy opened with a tap. She laughed. He'd taken a photo holding the duck purse next to his face like he was about to kiss it. The next featured him rocking it in his arms. And in the third, the duck's beak was next to his ear as if he were listening to it talk. What a silly man. Can we come see you? He'd texted. She hadn't lost him after all, maybe. Oh, Lucy hoped upon hope. Sure, she replied, but the duck seemed sketchy. Don't worry, he's with me. See you soon, love. Love. Lucy mouthed the word, and her heart blossomed. 2 days after fleeing Connor's penthouse, Lucy had done nothing but think about the man who had changed her life irreversibly. Had she walked away from something promising? Did she still have the option of walking back? If he hadn't called or texted, then he'd obviously not missed her. Maeve settled onto the sofa beside Lucy. Her bestie gave her that discerning once-over that meant, girl, you need to fix your lashes, or else, girl, who do I need to punch? Did I do the wrong thing? Lucy asked. I don't know him, sweetie, if he made you feel like he was buying your attention, but that's just it. I've never dated a trillionaire before. Maybe it's normal for him. Exceedingly possible. Like me living my life through social media is normal, she argued. Maeve winced. Yes, that had sounded terrible. The screen was not her life, though it did support everything that went into making a life. A life that had experienced romance if only for a moment. Give him another chance. You think, Lucy, you went on about that fabulous first kiss at the top of the Eiffel Tower, and then the sex. I didn't know you even knew how to do things like that. Nor had she. It was so easy to be with him, Maeve. But I'll never be on that man's level. Maeve stood and headed to the front door. You can be on any level you want. And why do there have to be levels? We're all the same underneath our clothes. And it sounds like he adores you. How does being with him make you feel? Like there's nowhere else in the world I'd rather be. Then set that phone aside and give him the attention he deserves. With a wink, Maeve left for work. Lucy picked up her phone. Her last post days ago, featuring the duck purse, had garnered tens of thousands of likes. Her followers couldn't believe she'd not bought it for herself. She could have, she told herself, but she knew it wasn't really true. She had some savings, but not enough to justify a splurge purchase like that. This had nothing to do with the purse. She'd been stuck in a moment of striving for more likes, more approvals, more, and more, when all along that more possessed ocean eyes and a charming smile. Maeve was right. Lucy loved being an influencer, but she'd gotten to the point where her job was directing her down a path on which she'd be wise not to stumble. Opening the message app, she was about to text Connor when she saw that he had texted her moments ago. Found a new mate. 3 photos were attached, which Lucy opened with a tap. She laughed. He'd taken a photo holding the duck purse next to his face like he was about to kiss it. The next featured him rocking it in his arms, and in the third, the duck's beak was next to his ear as if he were listening to it talk. What a silly man. Can we come see you? He'd texted. She hadn't lost him after all. Maybe. Oh. Lucy hoped upon hope. Sure, she replied, but the duck seemed sketchy. Don't worry, he's with me. See you soon, love. Love. Lucy mouthed the word, and her heart blossomed. 1 month later, Lucy zipped her suitcase closed and set it on her bed. Her life had changed dramatically since that night she'd said yes to dinner in Paris. Over the last month, she'd traveled with Connor to Morocco, Portugal, and the United States, and they were due to leave for his Italian palazzo later this evening. By allowing herself to relax and trust and to experience life beyond her online world, she'd invited in the most splendid romance. Maeve spun in with a couple outfits on hangers. Which one looks most open to getting to know the boss better? Without looking desperate, Lucy perused the colorful selections. The purple works with your pale skin tone. Maeve nodded in agreement. Italy is going to be so fun. You found the life that's been waiting for you, Lucy. Connor Gavin fits you perfectly. They'd shared dinner as a threesome a few times. Connor had quickly figured out that color was Maeve's way of showing the world her emotions, and he'd secretly asked Lucy if he should fund her goal of opening a shop that would offer all those fabulous colors as paints and homeware, but Lucy had said to let it be. He was very cognizant now that he could not buy his way out of an argument or even improve her mood with money. I love him. So when does the boss pick you up for your couple's retreat? Soon. It's just a fake though. We're going undercover to suss out the guy who leads the retreats, who could also be a potential artist for the art guys. I know Mr. Dane has no real interest in me. Alas, Maeve sighed. It'll be a struggle to keep my eyeballs off him. The face is a handsome one, agreed Lucy, calling Maeve's boss by his famous nickname. And I think he might like you. I saw the way he looked at you at the gallery showing last week. He looks at everyone that way. It's his natural charm, but I'll take it. Maeve hugged her. I'm so happy for you, Lucy. You took a chance by stepping out of your comfort zone, and look at you now. A knock on her open bedroom door was followed by Connor. Am I interrupting, ladies? Not at all. Maeve met him with a high five and left the two of them alone. You ready? He asked. Lucy patted her suitcase. Let's do this, great. But first there's something I need to do. Like, what? Lucy gaped as he went down on one knee before her and took her hand. Are you serious? I love you, Lucy. You make my life interesting and fun and so real, and I can't imagine living it without you. Would you be my bride? Oh, Connor. Hands shaking, she dropped to sit on his bent leg and kissed him. Yes, she said. I'm one very lucky duck. They kissed, and as Lucy pulled away, her eyes fell on the crystal duck purse on her dresser. Had it just winked?